What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So, after that Nintendo Direct hit, it was mayhem online. I've been playing all the different games that came out. I still have to check out Final Fantasy IX, although I hear it's basically the mobile port that they've moved to everything now, so like the text is not great and the menus and everything. But I checked out Yoshi, checked out Daemon X Machina a bit, and I'll talk about that some because they do need to improve it. We'll go over that maybe later on today. I'm trying to think between Yoshi or Daemon X Machina, and then, of course, Tetris. Played a lot of Tetris. Battle Royale. Who would have thought I'd be saying that now? But there you go. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Do hit the like button. We have a bunch of stuff to go over today, which actually includes THQ Nordic absolutely demolishing it. And they have more games in store for us than we would have originally thought. And then I want to talk about Ark because it looks like that is not getting fixed and no one should buy it because it's looking a little sketchy even there. It looks like the studio behind it pretty much took off from that. So if you bought it, I'm sorry, because it doesn't look like it's getting fixed. We're actually going to start today with some quick news. We're going to start with the PlayStation Classic. It's $40 now at Walmart. Yeah, brand new, $40. So if you held off on this thing, apparently you can just go to Walmart and get it. It's on their website for $40. I didn't check in-store yet, but I have a feeling it's probably about that in-store as well, since they will price match their own website. And it just goes, again, to reinforce the idea that, yes, the PlayStation Classic was a massive flop. It was not good. It didn't work out. I'm still trying to figure out if Sony's even going to try it again now that they've changed their management to a person, Jim Ryan, who does not care at all about nostalgia or backwards compatibility or anything like that, older games. So I actually, at this point, look at this and say they're probably not going to try anything else, which is a shame because the one classic system I would like to see is something along the lines of a PS2 Classic. That would be really cool. Although that would kind of be expensive probably as well with flash storage and everything, and the PS2 games being pretty large in size. But yeah, PS1 Classic, if you're holding out, maybe you can get more, like a little cheaper, but $40 is pretty cheap for it being brand new and what comes in the box. But hey, if you want to keep holding out, you can. But if you want to get it now, it's pretty cheap at $40. Also, if you were frustrated with Black Ops 4's lack of a single-player campaign, Activision did talk about in their earnings how there will be an all-new single-player campaign in this year's Call of Duty, which should be up to Infinity Ward, which a lot of people were wondering if it would be the next, like, Modern Warfare. Of course, we had Ghost that was kind of teased to us, but apparently that's not the case. Maybe it is a Modern Warfare game, and that's what they're going to go with. But the good news, there will be a single-player campaign, something I kind of missed from Black Ops 4 now that I look back on it and I'd played it. It sounded like they were going to have all different avenues outside of that, but it seemed like everyone was just chasing the Battle Royale craze at that point because the word was they scrapped the single player and put together the Blackout mode instead, and I'm sure it had better engagement, but I'm ready for another single player from Call of Duty, and I'm looking forward to Infinity Ward's shot at a single player campaign, because theirs are usually pretty good, so looking forward to it. And sticking to that Activision earnings call, we did also find out that Spyro, the Reignited trilogy, did have a good launch. Everything seemed fine there, expectations were met, but the big one was Crash Insane Trilogy shipped 10 million copies. That's a lot of copies to ship for Crash, which makes me, by the way, hope that Activision looks at that and says, oh, wow, Crash is still kind of popular. Maybe we should do another Crash game. I think at this point, 10 million of, like, the remake, the trilogy, well, that is a good deal at $40, obviously, when it came out with all the different Crash games in there. I would like to see a new one. So let's do that. 10 million is great, though. That's tremendous for that series. So congratulations to the team behind that, Toys for Bob and everything, and of course Spyro and Activision there. Good to see a game that's not outfitted with live services and microtransactions doing pretty well. And just to point out some lone EA support that was in that Nintendo Direct that kind of got overlooked a bit, Unravel 2 is heading to the Switch at the end of March 22nd. And originally when they showed this last year at E3, I think a lot of people were wondering, why isn't it on the Switch? I don't know. It was one of their EA originals from their indie developers. It seemed like, I guess they did want to get it on the Switch, kind of like how Faye is from EA, and that's like one of their EA originals, their indie teams. Yeah, I guess they wanted to get Unravel 2 on there. It makes sense because the characters are like the same colors as the different Joy-Cons, and it's of course co-op, so like it fits perfectly on the Switch, and it was so weird that it wasn't there in the first place. But the game is actually really good. It's a fun co-op style game, and I played it on the Xbox One. I liked it there. Cool to see it go to the Switch, and I think it will actually probably do pretty well there as it fits in really well with kind of the indie scene, and those, of course, have proven to be pretty popular on the Switch. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're actually start right away with THQ Nordic. Now, I've told you guys before, you want to keep an eye on THQ Nordic because they are doing a lot. They are acquiring tons of different studios and publishers, even with Deep Silver, for example. And they actually grabbed another studio, which we're going to talk about here soon. But what do you do when you get all these studios and publishers? Well, you like to think you're going to make money, and they have. Not only have they made money, it seems like they're ramping up productions of games. And of course, we hear them with some games like, oh, they have Alone in the Dark, they have Kingdoms of Amalur, they have Time Splitter, Second Sight. So we start to get all these, ideas flowing here, and we're hoping they're going to come up with some of these games. I'm going to tell you now, if you've thought about any of those games, I have a feeling you're going to see them show up on current systems. I'm going to tell you why in a second here. First, though, let's talk a bit about why they're doing well. Well, they put out their earnings, and check this out. They're actually up 713% from last year. That's their net sales that rose that much to $447.6 million in 2018. THQ Nordic is cruising right now. They're absolutely demolishing it, and they are, of course, putting out a lot of games that are, right now anyway, remakes, remasters of older games. For example, we know that Saints Row the Third is at some point coming to the Switch for whatever reason. Sphinx came out, of course, on Steam, and we've seen it now on the Switch. And they just keep doing more. Red Faction. And then, of course, they put out Darksiders 3, which, by the way, Darksiders 3, according to them, actually met their expectations, which tells me that they are a bit more conservative with their expectations, and they understand that not every single game is going to explode in popularity, which is something that Activision and EA have a real problem with when, 7 million copies of Battlefield 5 isn't enough. It makes you start to wonder a bit there, but it seems like THQ Nordic at least is conservative and understanding that not every game is going to sell obscenely well. But yeah, they're happy with Darksiders 3, and they actually talk about how more DLC is going to be coming to that game, and possibly it could be going elsewhere. So keep an eye on that too, because I wouldn't be surprised if Darksiders 3 does get pushed to the Switch at some point, along with something like Red Faction. Now, why do we want to keep an eye on THQ Nordic, especially going into the next generation of systems with the PlayStation 5 and whatever the Xbox Scarlet, I guess, right now, and of course the Switch, as that'll kind of skate the line between the two different generations? Well, it sounds like THQ Nordic has a ton of projects that we don't even know about. Right now, they have 77. That's right, 77 games in development. 48 of them are unannounced. So there's 77 games that they're working on right now, and they have plenty to announce then. So 48 games we don't even know about that are being worked on right now. Now, of course, they could be working on games for phones and other devices as well, but it seems like they're really into moving up older games. So we talked about Alone in the Dark, just as an example. Kingdoms of Amalur, Time Splitters. I think we might see older Time Splitter games get moved up. I think we might see Kingdoms of Amalur get re-released in all the systems. There might be Alone in the Dark that shows up here. I mean, just start thinking about all the games that we keep seeing pop up that they keep grabbing. They're just going to probably start remastering these things and throw them out there. And of course, they keep publishing titles. They, of course, have Deep Silver, who is working with, from what we've seen, working with Shenmue 3 as an example to publish that out in the East and everything. So they have a lot going on. And I think they are going to be one of the bigger publisher studios to keep an eye on as they put out all these games. THQ Nordic, I think, is going to be a company we're going to be talking about a lot over the next year, and they actually made another acquisition. They actually grabbed Kingdom Come Deliverance developer Warhorse Studios, which is interesting. Yeah, they went ahead and bought them for 33.2 million euros. Interesting to see that happen, but I guess they just wanted to pick them up, which tells me that there is a Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 coming at some point, or maybe they want to work them into making a whole nother game because they like what they saw there. They are actually taking the money they're making and they're reinvesting it, so they are buying more studios for more output. I think THQ Nordic wants to become like an Activision or EA just with game output. And they kind of remind me of the old days, like the PS2, the GameCube days, those days when studios were putting out tons of games. It sounds like they're kind of remembering that as well, and that's kind of what they're trying to mirror, whereas a lot of studios and companies are trying to slow down on game production. Even Sony's talked about that recently. I think THQ Nordic wants to speed up game production, so interesting there to keep an eye on them because they're going to touch on the nostalgia boom. They're also going to keep probably working in newer titles, and it's keep an eye on THQ Nordic because they're looking to go big. Next up, in the frenzy of the Nintendo Direct and everything, a lot of people probably forgot that new NES games did come out. They are out. Kirby Adventures, of course, and then we have Mario 2. both on the Nintendo, on the NES app. And then they also put out 2 special editions, the SPs. One is for Blaster Master. The other one is another SP for Metroid. I don't know why they decided to do that, but they did. They also put out the descriptions based on what they are, whereas one of them is for Blaster Master, where it puts you at the end, basically, of the game, which is what they've done before, and then Metroid seems to kind of throw you, again, towards the end with all of this stuff, and you can run through it pretty quickly and see the iconic scene where Samus does not have her suit on, and then, of course, back in the day, we realized that, oh, Samus is a girl, and that was a whole thing then. I think that's kind of the idea, is to kind of recreate that iconic moment that a lot of people had, kind of the oh, like, the oh wow moment. So I think that's kind of the idea there. The special edition stuff is probably something you're gonna boot up and then play once maybe and drop it. But Kirby Adventure is a good one to check out. I would check out definitely Kirby. Super Mario Bros. 2 is a good one, but I think Kirby is the one to check out here. But there you go. More NES games, just in case you forgot, with all of the madness with the Nintendo Direct. Next up, let's talk about Ark on the Switch. We had a whole video on it. I laughed at the game because it looks terrible. The resolution is obscenely low. It just is not a good-looking game. Everybody who's played it laughs at it and says it's terrible. I mean, Digital Foundry did the whole thing, couldn't believe it because it was at a lower resolution than Nintendo 64 games. That's the joke now. If you look at handheld footage and then docked footage, handheld footage is really, really bad. So I thought, okay, it's a $50 game that was being sold. They should fix it. That makes sense, right? Especially if you bought it, I'm sure you want it to be fixed so it runs better and looks better, at least a standard. Make it look at least decent. Does not look like that's going to be the case. In fact, the issue here is it looks like Wildcard is actually running off with it. They're saying, nah, we're not going to be doing any of that. And the way we know this right now is because Abstraction actually did the port, and it sounds like they didn't even want to release it when it came out. It wasn't ready to them. But Wildcard Studios wanted to just put it out. This is actually an interview. They did all this with Next N is a place called. Did a full interview with them, and they had several different notes that they wanted to point out, I guess, just to let people know. They're currently working on a number of areas in the game, so they are working on it. They say they can improve graphical presentation, they can improve loading times, which loading times are extremely long, by the way, runtime performance, overall feel. They said that they have no control over when the game launched on the Switch. Basically, that was just Wildcard Studios was like, what build is this? Oh, this is the first build. Yeah, go ahead and just put that out. We're just going to launch that. $50 price tag, no problem there, which is, it's not good. Apparently, Abstraction continuously tries to contact Studio Wildcard, and they just don't hear anything back. In fact, they haven't heard back in months, and they don't know if they'll be able to get any funding from Studio Wildcard to actually work on fixing the game, as in you're probably not going to get anything updated. But the one thing I will at least give Abstraction credit for, I think they know that their name is attached to this, so they're trying to figure out anything they can to get around it. Like they are looking to get funding elsewhere to fix the game. That's crazy to me because that should be Studio Wildcard, right? That's their thing. They do Ark. Now, Studio Wildcard has been under fire several times for other things. They sold DLC for Ark when it was in early access on Steam. So they are not new to controversy. Atlas was a whole thing as well, as people found that it was built on top of Ark to the point where people arrowed down and accidentally ran into the game Ark. I'm not kidding. So it hasn't been a studio without controversy. I'm not entirely surprised that they don't care to go back and fix this, but it's a $50 game. Don't buy it, at all. No, don't buy it at all. I don't think it's ever going to be fixed. In fact, if you want to buy it, go buy it on another platform, because it sounds like Studio Wildcard is pretty much just abandoning this, at least from what Abstraction's saying, and it sounds like they're actually trying to plead to try to be able to work it and fix it, since their name's on it. So yeah, I would want to as well. In our last bit of news, let's quickly go over the Media Create sales charts. I say quickly because nothing crazy happened, although a game is at the top right now that might throw some of you for a loop, considering Resident Evil 2 is out there and Kingdom Hearts is out there, and we assume they would be kind of, picking up as we go along here. Well, here's the top 10. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, that's right, is number 1 at 38,482, and that's because Kingdom Hearts 3 continues to drop, significantly, week over week. It's down to 35,450. I think it's actually going to be a struggle for it to get to 1 million copies in Japan, which is weird to me. Smash Bros. Ultimate is there at 3. Resident Evil 2 actually dropped down to number 4. That continues to drop as well. That's going to struggle to get to even 500,000, which is kind of a shame there. Pokemon Let's Go, Eevee and Pikachu at 5. Then we have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 6. Super Mario Party at 7. That actually crossed 1 million units. So there you go. Mario Party is a success in Japan, and from what we've seen everywhere else, pretty much all over the place. Minecraft at 8. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at 9. And then Splatoon 2 at 10. Jumping over to the hardware, the Switch tops 61,280. Again, making that slow climb to where the PS4 is to try to pass that. It is getting there. It is less than 500,000 units behind now, and the PlayStation 4 has continued to drop as well. It's 19,694 this week. The 3DS, 4,424. PlayStation Vita, 1,475. And the Xbox One actually up a little bit to 145 units. Pretty straightforward there on the hardware. It's what we've seen. The Switch continues to sell 50,000 units and above most times now. And of course, it is getting pushed along by New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, which is still a ridiculous name. PlayStation 4 it's on its way out. Like, let's be honest, it really is. It's on the back end of its life. Not surprised that it's dropping off. Not surprised that the Switch is catching up to it. Kingdom Hearts 3 is the surprising one. I can't believe it's dropped off this much already. I thought it was going to be an easy million-unit seller in Japan, but it really has struggled. So we'll see what happens in the weeks to come, because at this point, it's not going to be in the top 10 like by the end of this month at this rate. So we'll see, because soon enough, we'll see some of the older titles from Nintendo, like Breath of the Wild and Splatoon 2 and stuff, possibly being outselling it every week, but we'll see. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button. It really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, whether it is Ark on the Switch. Did you buy it? Now are you really regretting it? Or now are you completely staying away from it? Even if it goes on heavy discount, I'd wait for them to say that they're actually updating it, because it's not worth it at this point, and they're abandoning the game. They don't even see that it's worth it at this point. And then, of course, maybe you want to talk a bit more about the Direct that took place yesterday. Feel free to do that down below, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.